In this final video for this ball gown series, I will be talking about embellishments and finishing the dress. In order to make the lace-up closure in the back, I had to cut strips on the bias grain of fabric to make the loops. I thought it would be easier to sew the loops on a sewable boning to make it easier to insert into the dress. I then sewed all of my strips of fabric together in order to make the cording for the loops. Once I had the nice cording, I cut all of the pieces into 1 3/4 inch long segments. Once I had all of the strips sewn to the boning, I was able to sew it into the back of my dress. Moving on to the fun part, I will be using Swarovski crystals and gold metallic thread to make my embellishments. I will use metallic ribbon for the lace-up closure in the back of the dress. I started out by designing a few different concepts for the embellishments, or in this case, the machine embroidery applique that I will be using for my dress. As a designer, I really enjoy making my own applique for my projects. In order to make this applique work, I had to use a very heavy, water-soluble stabilizer. I let my embroidery machine do all of the hard work. I made sure to embroider on some tulle in order to make it easier to put the applique onto the dress when I'm sewing it. It's always fascinating to watch embroidery machines do all of the work. I made sure to do a few test pieces to make sure I had the right scale and proportion that I wanted for the dress. I cut away all of the excess stabilizer and let the applique soak in a bowl of water for a few hours. Once that was done, I was able to apply them onto the dress to see how exactly I wanted them to be. I ended up doing a layering effect with the applique on the dress. I then hand sewed every bit of applique to the waistline and the neckline and the skirt of the dress. The process is long, but the result is very much worth it. I decided it would be best to hand sew the lining into the dress. I didn't want to mess up the beautiful applique I worked so hard on. I didn't want to risk damaging the applique by putting it through the sewing machine. I used a flat fell stitch to put the lining in. I wanted to use Swarovski crystals because I really like the shine that they give. I spent a lot of time hand sewing all of the little flowers onto the dress. I wanted them to be really nice and neat, and hand sewing is the best way to do this. In order to put the Swarovski crystals onto the dress, I put a dab of glue onto a toothpick, put the glue on the applique, and then used a damp Q-tip to transfer the stone to the applique. This was a fairly quick method. It did not take as long as I thought it would, and ended up being pretty easy. The last thing I had to do was to hem the dress, of course, and insert a modesty panel. Here's a close-up of the back view of the dress. I really wanted to use purple and gold in order to show that this is a ball gown dress fit for a queen. And here's a close-up of the front view of the dress. I really like how the applique turned out, and I think the crystals make all the difference. And here is a close-up of the skirt. As you can see, I just did flowers, and some of the flowers have branches on them. And after 4.5 months of non-stop hard labor and many mishaps and many discoveries, I finished my ball gown dress. I want to thank everybody who supported me in this. If you like this, why not subscribe to my channel? I have some projects in the near future coming up that involve cosplays, and I'm very excited to share that with you. Thanks for watching, and see you all later.